The One X2 is here, finally. Many were expecting it to be released at the start of the year, but we got the One R instead, which was, and is, a good 360 and action camera hybrid. But with the release of the One X2 just 9 months later, is this really a step up? Or is it just another step sideways? Or sideways and up? Or sideways and up and then down? I'll give you my initial thoughts on this, how it compares to the One R, and 21 things you need to know about the One X2 by the end of this video. The first thing I want to share is that unfortunately this is not a major update like we were all expecting. I think many people were hoping for an 8K 360 video camera. Well, unfortunately we don't have that. In fact, so many things are similar with this camera and even this camera that I just want you to manage your expectations a bit, because this isn't going to be a big upgrade. Frowny face. But there are some cool new things and improvements that the One X needed when it was first released. There's so many things we didn't like about it. Well, we're actually getting them now with the One X2. Let's start with the design. As you can see, they're very similar. They're basically the same height and width, and it's a really good camera design to begin with. So I'm actually kind of happy that they've gone back to the original One X design for people that like a handheld vertical camera like the One X was. And then what they've done is improved on some of the things people were complaining about. The first one being the tiny little LED screen that was hard to read in bright sunlight. Well, with the One X2, there's now a much bigger color screen that is much more visible in bright sunlight, and it's relatively easy to navigate around with your finger. I will stress relatively. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's really hard. How cool is it though? It's like a little submarine window, and you can basically control the camera, change the settings and whatnot by swiping in the various directions. Is this screen usable without a phone? Nah. But it is a step up from the One R. This tiny little square screen is really difficult to use. So yeah, overall I think the screen is definitely an improvement from the One R and the One X. Something else exciting is that the One X2 is waterproof without needing any housing. It's got rubber around the sides and everything seems pretty airtight, including the button. So the on button is here on the side, and the main control button is down the bottom here, and these are rubber buttons, and I'd say that these work even better than the standard non-waterproof ones. Jeez. I don't know, they just feel more satisfying to press. But yeah, it's waterproof to 10 meters without the need for an external housing, which is cool and all, but it still will need a housing if you want to stitch 360 video and photos properly underwater, which is a problem that all 360 cameras face. So I would only really take this into account if you're shooting near the water or above the water, or if you're only shooting in one direction when you're underneath the water. Something that people didn't like about the original One X, myself included, is the battery. It's kind of hard to take out, and I feel like this could break if you pulled it too hard. Well, with the One X2, it's much easier. You just pull it out like this, and it's a much bigger battery as well. This holds about 30% more charge than the original One X, and it goes back in like this. And now the camera is waterproof again. Another thing people didn't like about the original One X is its micro USB charging, whereas with the One X2, it's USB-C. Welcome to 2020, as much as it pains me to say that. And for anyone who's had experience with the latch of the One R, this one is nowhere near as annoying. The final thing to point out is that it has 4 microphones, one on each side of the camera, which means it captures full 360 spatial audio. And it's supposed to have better audio than the previous Insta360 cameras. I haven't tested this fully yet, but I could say with confidence that it's not going to be on the level of a GoPro camera. I tested the One R side by side with the Hero 9 Black, and the GoPro came out head and shoulders above the One R when it came to sound quality, and I can't really see too much changing with this. It should be pretty decent though, so I will have to test this further. And now for the specs, and I'm sorry to say, but there has been no upgrade at all since the One R or One X was released. We've got exactly the same resolutions and frame rates for all 3 cameras. WTF? Yeah, I know, right? Like, why? That's what we all wanted. We wanted an 8K camera, or not even 8K. That's a lot of resolution. What about 7K or 6K or even 5.8K? Just 0.1 of a K more? No. We've got the exact same resolutions for photo and video. I can't quite grasp why exactly. Maybe there's limitations with having a camera this small, but I really was expecting some kind of upgrade when it came to the overall photo and video resolutions. And while image and video size isn't everything, there are other things that can override that, like good dynamic range, having a better sensor, better RAW capabilities, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But it would have been nice to see the resolutions go up even just a little bit to see that things are improving over the past 2 years, but we're still at the same resolutions we were at when the original 1X came out in 2018. And I can't help but being a little bit disappointed by that. They are saying though that the 1X2 has better quality video than the 1R and 1X, and from the tests I've done so far, I can't say it's a night and day difference. Maybe it's tiny bit better, but it's nothing noticeable. I did play around with the HDR video mode of the 1X2 however, and that was extremely impressive and so much better than shooting standard video in the standard video mode. It is best however when you're using the camera on a tripod or monopod. When there's too much shake, it struggles shooting HDR video, because when you think about it, it's doing a lot when it's taking a HDR video. It's basically combining 3 different video exposures together simultaneously while you're shooting, and that is really complicated to do even with high-end cinema cameras. But yeah, on a tripod, this video footage looks really good, especially in the context of point and shoot 360 cameras and how those have looked over the years. Insta360 are also saying that the colors have been enhanced with the 1X2, and maybe it's a slight improvement. I still wouldn't say that the colors are 100% accurate to real life. They just look a little bit off. It feels like the camera still doesn't have the bit depth to fully capture all the colors it needs to represent color accurately. But you know what? It's good enough, and it's a slight improvement overall. Okay, on a more serious note, you're probably wondering how the 1X2 compares to the most recent Insta360 release, which is the 1R. Well, I put them side by side here next to this giant wooden thing, and as you can see, the footage looks really similar. Maybe there's more contrast and saturation on the right hand side, but that is pretty easy to add in color correction with the 1R. And at 500% zoom, I'm also not seeing any differences when it comes to sharpness and clarity. Here's the HDR video side by side. They both look really good. That dynamic range is very impressive. Maybe it's slightly better with the 1X2. I'd say my face is probably a bit brighter there, so okay, I'm going to give it to the 1X2, but overall I think they're both doing a really good job. And the reason I didn't include the original 1X in this comparison is that in previous comparisons I determined that the 1R and 1X look pretty much identical. Here's something that's completely unique to the 1X2. They've added their Pureshot mode, which was previously only available with the 1R 1-inch edition. And what that does is it basically takes a 9-shot bracketed HDR RAW shot, combines it all together into one ultra high dynamic range photo. It's all done in the camera and you don't have to edit it that much later on. Pureshot is now the default photo mode when shooting 360 photos with the 1X2, and I think this is an excellent thing, and it really takes Insta360 photos to the next level. Is that on the level of the Theta Z1? No. The Z1 is still the king of 360 photography in late 2020, early 2021. But what this Pureshot mode does is it really does help you get the best results possible for 360 photos within this camera. Now, I wouldn't choose this as a virtual tour camera unless you're only shooting for small clients, or if your focus is video and you just need a bit of photo on the side, then it's okay. But if you really are going to start targeting virtual tour clients and you want to scale up a virtual tour business, this won't be the camera to do it. Now, there's no question, Insta360 are very good at marketing, and they can make a very basic and common feature seem like a groundbreaking new addition to their new camera. And I just want to warn you about that. They've added a bunch of new things to the One X2 that really aren't new, and they're older things that we could do before, but they've just repackaged them and made them a bit simpler to do within the app, but they aren't actually new. One of them is called Instapano, where they say that the 360 camera takes a panoramic image that isn't a 360 photo, but more in line with what a traditional panorama would look like. Well, all they did was just crop in on the equirectangular image. That's it. I don't think that's a groundbreaking feature, and I can't imagine who would use this mode. Another one is their Steadicam feature, where they're pushing the fact that a 360 camera can shoot a video that looks like it was taken on a Steadicam. And while that's true, this is nothing new. Maybe they're making a shortcut to do it in their app, but this is something you can do with all 360 cameras, including all of their previous 360 cameras. It's just the basic concept of reframing 360 video in one direction. Another one that has really annoyed me over the years is the invisible selfie stick. Oh my God, it's invisible. Where did it go? Hey, guess what? All 360 cameras have blind spots directly underneath them, which makes any selfie stick invisible with any 360 camera. It's not unique to Insta360 cameras, and I really don't think this should be marketed anymore as one of the key features. So yeah, just be mindful that a lot of the things they're showing with their marketing videos can be done with basically any of their cameras. You could do them with the One R, you could do them with the original One X, or even the Insta360 Evo. They can all do many of the effects that you see in those flashy marketing videos. And look, this is a common thing that many companies do with the new camera releases. GoPro, I'm looking at you, but it's just important to recognize that these videos are shot professionally, and the same result could probably be achieved with the past few generations of their cameras. Now, Insta360 have also added some cool new effects to the One X2 app, and these can all be achieved easily within ShotLab within the app, and there's no doubt they're really cool, and it's a really fast process to make these, as you may have seen in one of my previous videos. So they've added more of these with the One X2. However, this also begs the question, is what they're doing ethical? And what they're doing is coming up with these really creative and fun effects, but limiting them to certain cameras. Even when all of their cameras are capable of doing them, they'll market them as exclusive to certain cameras. This happened with the One R and One X. I released a video to my channel showing 10 cool effects that were added to the One R, and at the time I made it, you could also do them with the One X. Yes, they weren't officially promoting it, and technically you weren't supposed to do it. It was more of a workaround that I found and shared, but it worked. Literally all of the effects worked as they did with the One R. And eventually Insta360 stopped the use of the One X inside the One R app when they released a unified Insta360 app. And as you can imagine, a lot of people were upset by this because this was a workaround that clearly worked with the One X, and they stopped the use of that workaround. And now it feels like they might be moving towards the same strategy with the One R and One X2. Now, firstly, I want to say that these cameras have more inbuilt effects and cool things you can do than basically every other 360 camera on the market. So there's no question Insta360 are clearly over delivering with their products, and they keep continually releasing new cool updates that were never there when the cameras first arrived. But when you have a certain effect that can clearly be done, but they just choose to offer it with one camera and not another, I see that as ethically tricky territory. I mean, I totally understand if one camera literally wasn't capable of achieving certain effects, but it really does seem like all of the recent Insta360 cameras have the same insides and are therefore capable of doing basically the same stuff within the apps. Now, while they're not consciously taking away features, because as I said, those features were never offered with the One X, it is apparent that they're being strategic with which effects they allow with each of their cameras. Just something to think about. Now, I want to quickly touch on workflows, and with One X2, it's very similar to the workflow we've been using with the One R and One X, where there's a fantastic mobile app, fantastic desktop software that allows you to do hundreds of cool effects and reframing of your 360 videos and photos. It's all quick and easy, and Insta360 are leaders when it comes to workflow. There are also some new accessories that have come out with the One X2. Spare battery, fast charge hub, another battery, lens cap, and a bullet time cord. They used to use a handle and a selfie stick, so now it's going back to the cord. Those are pretty good accessories, and no doubt there will be more to come. And one of those will be lens guards, which is an important thing for anyone that owns a 360 camera. You always know when you go out shooting with your 360 camera that there's a chance it could blow over in the wind and smash your lens. Ask me how I know. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how effective the lens guards are and if they lower the quality of the shots at all. Now for the price, it's $429 US, which is about the same as the One R. I'm trying to make sense of this price. I guess it makes sense. I mean, you are getting that much value for $429. Although when releasing a product that is so similar to their last product, you think they would have used price as another differentiator. But yeah, it is what it is, and I think it's still a good price for this camera. Now, I can't help but asking the question of why. Why did they release this camera? I mean, I think we can all agree that the physical body is much better than the previous One X, so it's an improvement there. But for everything else, you just feel like they could have added those things to the One X or the One R. I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit disappointing seeing so few updates with this camera. The new camera design is definitely its biggest feature. Is it good enough to upgrade from the One X or the One R? No. If you own either of these cameras, I'd say don't bother with the One X2 because it won't be enough of an upgrade. If you're upgrading from a much older camera, or perhaps you're thinking about buying your first 360 camera, then the One X2 will actually be a really good option. It's basically the latest and greatest of the One X line, which is clearly going to be a repetitive thing. Maybe next year or a year from now, or even 2 years, we'll see the One X3. But for now, this is the latest model and a definite buy for anyone that doesn't have a 360 camera of this caliber. Now, I do totally rate the One X2. My issue was it, as I discussed before, is that it's not that big of an update from their previous cameras. That doesn't mean it's not a good camera, it just means that you shouldn't upgrade from their recent cameras. And yeah, that's it. Curious to hear what your thoughts are on the One X2. Let me know down below. I see some complaints coming in. So that's it for my first impressions of the One X2. I will definitely be using this over the next few weeks and months, and I'll definitely release further thoughts on this camera as it evolves, as it becomes unique in its own right, and we really understand where it fits in the overall 360 camera hierarchy. So yeah, subscribe for those. I hit 100K, by the way. That's pretty exciting. I will make a dedicated video about that. Just been busy making this video and doing a million other things. So yeah, more content on my channel soon. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate all of you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.